Hello, Instagram. I think I'm live. I'm trying to go live on Facebook at the same time, so let's see if that works. Yes, I think it's working. Hey, Facebook. I'm live on Instagram as well, so I'm going to be chatting to all of you hopefully at the same time. So thanks so much for joining me. If you don't know me and I've just randomly popped up on your feed, or maybe you're a new follower, I've had a few of those today. My name is Kendall and I'm the founder of Adventures with Flowers. You can see the little logo in the background there. So hey, yeah, give me a wave. Nice to see a few people. Hello. So I am going to be talking to you tonight. It's going to be a live training session. I'm not sure how long it's going to last for, because those of you that know me know I do like to talk, but I promise I won't bang on for ages. But I do have some notes here because I've got lots of exciting things that I want to talk to you about. But I'm going to be talking to you about 3 steps to starting a mindful garden. So this is going to be really great for you if perhaps you're quite new to gardening, or you've done a bit of gardening but it didn't work out so well and you kind of maybe want to get some tips. So hopefully I'm going to share a few things today that will help. Or perhaps you are already a gardener but you want to make your gardening practice a little bit more mindful to really help you find some headspace. So I always kind of say that a lot of people kind of view gardening as a bit of a chore, but actually I utilise it to help me manage my anxiety, and it's really, really effective for that, because I don't know about you, but you know, I've got a very busy life. I'm a mum, I work 3 days a week, I run my business, you know, I see friends, I'm always kind of doing lots of things, and as a result I don't get that much time, you know, just to like be alone with my thoughts and kind of have that headspace. So for me, my gardening really helps me with that. And when I find when I do have that time, or I used to find when I had that time, I still found it really hard to kind of switch my brain off. So that's once I started to garden, that actually allowed me to have that headspace. So that's why I set up Adventures with Flowers, because I was like, this is amazing. Like, more women need to have this, because you know, we do take on a lot and we are constantly busy. And sorry, I'm just waving to a few of you on Instagram here. We are always busy and we don't put ourselves first very, very often at all, actually, and that can end up in mental health issues, and especially anxiety, which you know, is huge at the minute, especially after coronavirus as well. So yes, that's a little bit of kind of potted history, if you will, of me. It would be really interesting for me, actually, if a few of you could write in the comments whether you have done any gardening before, whether you're like brand new and looking to get going in your garden, or if you've done a bit. So let me know in the comments what your kind of level of gardening knowledge is, and yeah, just for that now, that would be really, really good. So the first thing then I'm going to start talking about is my first tip, or my first step is to start small. Now, generally in life, you can probably gather from my like very natty pug shirt and the bright pink wall behind me, I wouldn't really advise women ever to stay small. I think that women should occupy as much space in the world as they choose to. But when it comes to starting a garden, if you are new to gardening, if you already struggle with anxiety, the last thing we want to do is try and you know, take a huge section of your garden and think, right, I'm going to transform this whole garden, because in practice you're not going to be able to keep up with that, especially if you are busy and you don't have tons of spare time. So my first tip is to start small. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments here. Oh, so somebody said mostly herbs. Cool. Okay, there's going to be some interesting things coming up, hopefully. And Kerry has said lawnmower only. Okay, Kerry. Right, well, we'll give you some inspiration, hopefully. So the reason for starting small is that it can be overwhelming if you go out into your garden and you think, right, I'm going to sort all of this. It's just too much for your brain to process. And what will happen is, sure enough, you won't be able to keep up with it, and then you will not, you know, things will die because you forget to water them, or forget to plant them out. I am still a little bit guilty of that at times, I'll be honest. And you will feel like a failure. And that really is not the premise of what Adventures with Flowers and Mind in Bloom Box is about. It's all about giving you the support, taking things slowly, learning things one step at a time until you feel comfortable with it, and really supporting you in that journey to really leverage gardening to help you find that headspace and improve your mental health. And ultimately, we want our mindful garden to be an enjoyable space. We don't want it to become this kind of millstone of, oh God, I've got to go out and, you know, do some weeding and it's going to take me like 3 days. And, oh, I've got to water the pots. I'm going to be out there for 2 hours watering, you know. So that's why I really kind of say at the beginning, until you get your confidence up, then just sort of start with a small area. So I would say, you know, if you're growing in pots, you know, maybe start with 5 pots, not loads at all, just and you can kind of group them all together in a little area, maybe next to a seating area. So it's somewhere you can sit and relax and enjoy your flowers or your veg or your herbs. Or if you have got a bigger garden and you want to grow in your borders, then and you might already have some plants in your borders, but I would just concentrate on a small section. So you know, maybe 2 meters by 2 meters, not big at all, and just get that looking really, really good. And I think the danger is if you try and go too big, you do little bits here and there, and then nothing kind of ever really has that impact. So you never feel like you've achieved something. So that's why I think it's really key to break it down into sections and just, you know, go slowly with yourself. And the beauty is, once you've got that part looking really, really gorgeous, that has really brought your confidence up. So then instead of having that, oh God, I really can't do this, you're thinking, yeah, hell yeah, fuck yeah, I can do this, I'm a gardener. And then you can slowly start to branch out and use the skills that you've learned on that one small section in you know, another section, and kind of move around the garden that way. So that is my first tip. A big mistake that people make generally, I find, people that say to me, oh, I can't garden, you know, I try, but you know, it just all gets too overwhelming and I can't do it. It's because they've just gone too big too soon. Right, tip number 2 then. I'm just going to have a little scroll back through actually and give a little wave to a few people, see what else. Okay, so someone here trying to garden, Hannah, trying to garden for wildlife. Yes, amazing. That is really, really good. I'd love to know what sort of things you're growing. Bits and bobs over the courage and curiosity, bits and bobs over the years, very much a chuck it in and see. And do you know what? There's actually, there's nothing wrong with that at all if you don't put too much expectation on yourself. I think if you are completely prepared, oh my God, sorry, one of my best friends has just had a baby and she's trying to do a video call with me, but I'm live, so I'm going to keep chatting to you. Hopefully I can call her later. Anyway, sorry, distracted there. Yeah, so I think if you're prepared to have that attitude of, right, I'm going to plant this and see how it works out and not beat myself up if it doesn't work out, then I think that's absolutely fine. But it really just depends on your personality type, and you know yourself, and you know whether you're willing to just kind of go for it and not be sad if things don't work out. My second tip then is to get to know your garden intimately. Now, I know this sounds a bit weird and you're like, Kendall, this sounds a bit strange. I didn't realise it was going to be this at, 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. What I mean by that, and I do mean intimately, because you really do need to know every little space of the area that you're growing in, not the whole garden, but certainly the area that you're planning to grow in. The first thing that you want to work out is how much sun that area gets. So it might be that you think, right, I want to start a veg patch. Generally, most veg plants that you would grow from seed are annual plants, and they have quite a lot of growing to do, and therefore they need as much sun as you can give them. So what I suggest doing, and I'll point you to this at the end, but if you head to my website, you can download my How to Start a Garden guide. and in there, and the email that comes with it, the emails that come with it, it shows you how to do this. But basically you kind of want to sun map your garden. So you're going to work out how where the sunny spots are, where the shady spots are, and that's going to help you to decide where you're going to grow you put your veg patch, or start your herb garden, or grow your flowers as well. So that's the first thing, is to work out how much sun you get. If you have a really shady garden, it doesn't mean that you can't grow veg. You just need to choose certain types of veg. So things like lettuce will grow in shadier spots. Beetroot as well will grow really well. Things like tomatoes, you might struggle, but it might be that you have the front of your house is quite sunny, and you've maybe got a bit of space out the front for a couple of pots, and you could grow some tomatoes there. So it is a case of kind of being a little bit inventive, but until you take notice of where the sun is and what sun levels you get in your garden, the danger is you plant tomatoes in a really shady spot and you will never get the tomatoes that you're hoping for. So that is a really, really key thing to check first of all, is your sun levels. And then the next thing then is your soil type. Now there's a few different soil types, but probably the most common ones are a clay soil. So a really easy way to tell if you've got a clay soil is to get some of the soil in your hands and to try and roll it into a sausage. And if you can roll it into a sausage, then you've got a clay soil. But if you roll the soil and it just kind of disintegrates and it's really sandy and there's no way it's going to roll into a sausage, then you've got sandy soil. So imagine if you were at the beach, similar to that. And then there's kind of there are a couple of other soil types, but the most common one is like a loamy soil, and this tends to be like a mix between a bit of clay, a bit of silt, and a bit of sand. So if you've got a loamy soil that's on the clay side, you might be able to roll it into a bit of a sausage, but it will still feel a bit grainy and sandy in your hands as well. So yeah, again, like I said, at the end I'll point you towards the website, and you can get that how to start a garden guide, and it sort of tapes you through step by step in there, so that will be really useful for you. And then coupled with soil type really is the water retention of your soil. So how well does the soil retain the water? So for example, if you were to dig a hole and then pour a load of water into the soil, does the water drain away really quickly? In which case you probably got a sandy soil. If the water stays in there for a really long time, you've probably got a clayey soil. And that can affect your plant choice as well, because there'll be some plants that really don't like to have a soggy bottom. So they don't, bulbs for example, if you plant bulbs in a clay soil, chances are they will just rot and you will never get any flowers. So if you have a clay soil, it doesn't mean you can't grow them. I would just advise you to grow them in a pot, so you can put compost in, and then they will kind of be quite happy growing in there, and they won't just rot in the ground. Similarly, there are some plants that are quite hungry feeders. So things like, going back to sort of your fruit and veg again, so things like tomatoes, they're having to do a lot of growing during the growing season. So the more they're going to need a lot more feed to kind of enable them to grow their fruits and ripen them. So if you plant them in a sandy soil, the problem with a sandy soil, because the water drains so well through it, it tends to take all the nutrients out of the soil as well with it. So you will find that you will end up having to feed your tomatoes a lot more with like a liquid feed throughout the growing season in order to make them produce the fruit and for it to ripen. So there's just a couple of little quirks to bear in mind there. Once you've got all this information, so you've decided on your area according to your sun levels, you know what soil type you've got, you can then head to the garden centre or head online armed with that information. And this then brings us on really nicely to tip number 3, which is grow things that you love. Now, it might be that you really love I'm trying to think of an example here of something that wouldn't like it. Well, bulbs are a prime example. So you really love tulips, but you're gardening on a clay soil. It just means you need to adapt and grow in pots, like I said earlier. But generally, if you're going to be putting the time and effort into growing something, then you really need to love it. So if you are growing veg, for example, you don't want to plant like 5 courgette plants if you don't really like courgettes, because courgette plants are so prolific anyway, they'll give you loads of courgettes just off one plant. And also, if you're not going to eat them, what are you going to do with them? You don't want to be putting your time and effort into growing them if then the veg is just going to go to waste, or you're just going to end up giving it away. It's much more satisfying when you can put that time and that effort and that love into the plant, and then you actually can, you know, pull that tomato off and eat it. It's just the most amazing feeling. So make sure you choose things that you love. If it's things like herbs, for example. Herbs are a really great example because they tend to be very sensory. So they either smell really good or they feel really nice. You can create you can get these amazing little herb garden boxes that you can have around seating areas. So, you know, as you kind of go to sit down, you can run your hand through it. Or I also really I've got a big rosemary bush that's planted alongside one of the paths in my garden, and then every time I walk past, because it kind of spills over the edge, every time I walk past it and brush against it, you get that amazing smell. So be really mindful of scents that you really like as well. So things like for a lot of people, sweet peas really remind them of being young and being at grandparents' houses in lovely long hot summers. So if you have got scents that remind you of really happy memories, then plant loads of those, because then, you know, you're going to grow them, you're going to put all that care into them, and then you know, you're going to have that amazing kind of memory taking you back there. Let me see what else I've got here. And ultimately, you don't really want to spend time around things that you don't like. You know, this is all about designing your garden for you and choosing to put things into it that you really love. So, you know, you can be completely selfish here and just choose things that you want. A couple of other things to kind of, I've said about scents, but you know, there's a lot of different scents. Even the herbs are obviously brilliant, but also within flowers. So you've got the sweetness of your sweet peas, you've got spicy scents from stocks. A lot of stocks are almost like a spicy musky scent. And then things like a scented pelargonium. So that's like a geranium, you know, those the bright red sort of pom-poms that you get always in the summer. They actually have a certain smell of their own, but you can get scented varieties that smell almost like citrusy, which I really, really love. I grow them in my greenhouse, and when I walk in there, it's like the smell just envelops me. It's absolutely wonderful, especially if I've had a really tough day and I'm just I just need to you know, and I just go out there and I can just smell all that lovely smell. Oh, it's just wonderful. What else have I said here? Right, so I guess I've kind of given a few tips there, so I'd be really interested. I'm going to go back through the comments in a minute once we have done. If you have any questions at all, then please do pop them into the comments at the bottom, or you can use the question function, which is a bit fancy. And if you use that, then I can put the question up on the screen and we can answer it. But if you are still feeling a bit I don't know, I wouldn't know where to start, it all sounds a bit complicated, there's loads of different things to think about, then I've got something that allows me to kind of take that overthinking away from you. And that is my Mind in Bloom box. So I have created a plant, bulbs or seeds of the month for you to grow. So it's just one thing to focus on in a month. You can choose from flowers, herbs or fruit and veg. They're the 3 different options. So I've been doing the flowers for probably a year now, but the other 2, the edible boxes, are completely brand new, so I'm really, really excited about those, because loads of you said that you wanted to get going on fruit and veg, so I've launched those. We start in Mind and Bloom box in our private Facebook group. We start by kind of getting to know your garden. So the steps that I've kind of spoken about with the sunlight levels and the soil type, we start with that. There's a training on that within the membership. And you can obviously also ask any questions and post in the group. And actually, I encourage you to post once you've kind of done that and worked out what sunlight you're working with and what soil types. I do encourage you to post a picture of your garden and put that in there. So then you can kind of match yourself up with other people that are growing in a similar situation, and you can support each other through that. Obviously, I'm in the group as well all the time, able to answer questions and help you with things. If, you know, say your tomato plants are looking a bit sad and you don't know why, then I can always advise you on that. We learn one new mindful gardening technique each month. So that will always be related to the mindful gardening activity that you have in your Mind in Bloom box that you receive through the post. So it doesn't feel too much and too overwhelming. I'm not going to get you in there and then like chuck loads of information at you, because I think actually the whole premise of Mind in Bloom is to teach you to garden, but to do it in a way that allows you to find that headspace. So I'm not about like throwing loads of information at you. I don't think that's helpful. You know, there's a few different ways that you can learn these techniques. So within each Mind in Bloom box, there's a recipe card. Which if you prefer to read, how to do things, then you can read through. Or there's videos within the group, and we also discuss it at I discuss it at the live Q&A as well, which is every other week. And really, before you know it, you're going to have a thriving flower border or veg patch or herb garden, depending on what you choose. And like I said, there are live Q&A sessions twice a month to help you if you get stuck. So you can submit your questions, or you can come on live and ask them, and then I will go through them on the live. There are different lengths to the subscriptions. So a year's subscription means that you'll have a full flower border or a really full veg patch or a really full herb garden after the full year. And you'll have a really good grasp on all the mindful gardening techniques as well to help you find calm. And once you kind of start doing them, you will notice how much quicker you can suddenly get into that kind of calm headspace zone. Plus, you save 20% on the box price as well if you buy a year's subscription up front. Or if you prefer to spread the cost, then you can select the ongoing option and pay monthly for your subscription as well. So if tonight has got you all excited about reconnecting with yourself and finding some headspace after, let's face it, a crazy few months, I cannot believe I'm saying months, then you can head to the link in the bio and link in my bio and come and join us in Mind in Bloom box. We would absolutely love to have you. I'm just going to see if there's any questions here. Oh, here we go. So somebody has said, thank you for soil explanation. Lycra and Cake, good name. Thank you for the soil explanation. We have a border at the front of the house that has a lot of bark in it. I'm not keen on the plants in there, but not sure what would be suitable to plant in there. That's interesting. So is the bark almost like on top of the soil as like to kind of keep the weeds out, or is it all mixed in with the soil? Be quite interesting to know. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, the bark is not gonna it's not the bark itself that's going to change the soil. All the bark is going to do is, over time, the microbes in the soil will break that bark down into the soil particles, and it will just become part of the soil. So it's more about like scraping that bark to the side and then getting a handful of the soil underneath and seeing what you've got there. And also having a look at the sun levels as well. So head to the website, and you will be able to download my How to Start a Garden guide, and in there it will show you about how to do the soil types and the sun levels as well, because I think that would be useful. Really, they're the kind of things you need to know before you can decide what to plant in there. But one thing I would say is, if you have already got plants in there that you don't like and you're going to dig them up, then maybe just pot them into some pots and either give them to friends or like leave them outside. I know quite a few people have had loads of extra veg plants, they've been leaving them outside, and people have been taking them as well. One other thing I just wanted to mention before I go is, I am actually, because this is my launch month for the edible boxes, I am going to be doing live garden coaching next Thursday, and I would love to answer your questions live on some of the problems you're having in your garden. So if you have any issues that you're currently thinking, oh, you know, I really want to, you know, I don't know, I've got this massive rose and I don't know how to train it and I don't know how to prune it, things like that, then that would be really great to have you on to have a bit of live garden coaching, so you can get a real sense of how kind of life is, if you will, within the Mind in Bloom box community. But thank you so much. Like I said, oh, hello, Mika. I haven't spoken to you for ages. I'll email you after this, see how you are. But yeah, so that's everything from me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do head to the link in my bio and have a check out of Mind in Bloom box. And like I said, you can get the How to Start a Garden guide from the website as well. Have a lovely evening. I'm off to call my friend now and her new baby. See you. Bye.